Okay, so I'm just going to dive right in here if you don't mind. Again, Britt Angela is with Baptist Health Systems. We wanted to talk just a little bit about some of the entry-level positions that you all might be offering, because we know you have a wide network of jobs available. So can you touch on some of those, please?
Yes. So thank you for having us, having Baptist Health System. So we have plenty of positions open and available in the healthcare field, whether it's nursing or nursing support. Are you able to hear me? I'm hearing a lot of feedback.
Nope, we've got you. You're doing great.
Okay, great. All right. So, so whether it's nursing or nursing support, I mean, I think everyone knows Baptist Health System. We provide excellent care to the community. Our nurses that work and that are passionate about being nurses and taking care of patients who are there for surgical services, or whether they're there and they're being cared for COVID. We're very passionate about the community and who we care for.
I wanted to know, just in terms of making someone a standout candidate, is there something that, a bit of advice?
I'm so sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you because I'm hearing something else.
A lot of feedback. Okay, is there anyone else who, how about put your hands up if you can hear me okay? Just raise your hand. All right, it looks like we're having some pretty rough technical difficulties, so thank you for bearing with us. We're working to get this sorted out. And Amanda, I wanted to bring back you back into this conversation because, you know,
I think we're hearing the production team.
Oh, okay. All of you online, thank you again for bearing with us. So Amanda and I are going to continue talking while production sorts this out. Production, if you could give me a heads up, please, whenever you get this sorted out, that would be lovely. You know, again, Amanda, as I bring you back into this conversation, I think of, you know, our own career paths, which is you want to get your foot in the door so bad, or maybe you want a career change, but you don't know where to go, where to turn. And you've talked to some really fascinating people who maybe have had internships or maybe have had opportunities like that. And can you kind of speak to that experience from your reporting?
Yeah, we actually talked to someone who was really inspiring last week. All of these stories are so inspiring, but this one really stuck out to us because this woman, she took advantage of the job program that the city has right now, the Train for Jobs SA, and she was actually homeless right before the pandemic hit. She was very open about that. She lost her job as a result of the pandemic. And then because of the training program that we have here in the city, she was able to get her foot in the door and be able to make those connections. And she said the biggest thing for her right now was childcare, being able to have that opportunity, because so many schools went remote and so many different, you know, whether it was daycare, childcare, those were all remote for so long. And that's been a big thing for a lot of people. So I know, talking with her, childcare was the biggest thing that was able to propel her to that next step, for her to be able to not only get that job, but get her and her family out of homelessness and back into a home and back on the right path.
Right, and so to your point, that's part of this whole person approach, which, you know, maybe an organization like Workforce Solutions Alamo can really kind of help you get that leg up. You know, you mentioned the pandemic, Amanda. We think of the mental health implications that came with that. How many people are still struggling? Maybe their careers had to take a step back. Maybe they lost their jobs. And so these are all the things that, you know, Goodwill San Antonio can help with. So those are some of the organizations we have here today, and we are working to get those technical difficulties sorted out. Let's go ahead and move on. And go ahead and raise your hand if you can hear me. We'll start with that. Just raise your hand right up. All right, guys, any suggestions from here? I think we're gonna have to get this sorted out. Steve, can you hear me okay? Steve Barish.
Yes, I've got you now, loud and clear.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Steve Barish is the CNF. He's with CNF Technologies. He's the COO. Sir, I wanted to circle back with you in terms of what career opportunities you guys have at the moment. Can you just do a broad brush stroke of that for us?
Sure. It's actually a great time to have this particular conversation. We are in a phase of rapid growth at CNF. In fact, we were, I think, the number 2 fastest growing company in San Antonio last year amongst privately held, locally owned companies. So we have a tremendous need for talent. We're looking for, in particular, software developers, computer scientists, vulnerability researchers, people who are interested in solving really challenging problems in security in particular. So whether you're an entry-level employee or a college student about to graduate here within the next year, or you're an experienced professional, there's probably something that we have to offer from a position perspective that would be attractive for most folks who are interested in the security domain.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. And just for people at home who maybe don't know what the organization is, what CNF is, in a nutshell, can you explain that to them?
Sure. Well, we are. I like to think of us as a hometown, success story here in San Antonio. We were founded by Fred Ramirez, an alumni of what is now the 16th Air Force down on the south side of San Antonio on then Kelly Air Force Base, now the Lackland Annex. And we've been engaged in solving cybersecurity and computer security problems in general for the national security clients since about 2005. And if you think about the world we live in today, look at this call, for instance. We've got, 9-10 participants in different locations putting video and audio across the internet. And hopefully we all know who's controlling the systems that we're on. That's the business that we're in, is making sure that the information that you use is secure, confidential, that the integrity of it is maintained, and that, quite frankly, where it's to the national security advantage of the United States to perhaps deter other people from being able to have an intelligence advantage over us, to engage in those areas as well. And we do that technically, operationally, from a systems development perspective, and also from an intelligence collection and exploitation perspective.
I wanted to read this note that I have for our viewers. It says, Steve Barish has expanded the company's legacy as a cyber operations and technology developer for Air Force Cyber and has opened new markets within Army Cyber, Navy Cyber, U.S. Cyber Command, and so much more. And when I read that, when I hear it too, it just sounds exciting. And so,
It
right?
also isn't just me. We have
Yeah.
a phenomenal team at CNF, from the owners down to every individual employee who works with a client or works with one of our development teams. We're a family-owned company. We treat our employees that way. We're a very mission-focused company, and we wouldn't be achieving any of those things if it wasn't for the men and women that actually do the hard work and let me come sit on programs like this to chat about it.
Is there any entry-level opportunities that you have off the top of your head?
Absolutely. In fact, software developers in particular, we're looking for young folks primarily with a college degree, but with experience. If they have 2 to 4 years of experience, we can look at that as well. We're looking for C++, C++ developers, Python developers, folks who are interested in test automation, reverse engineering, people who have reverse engineering interests, both software and hardware. So if there are folks out there who are interested in that, please apply. Send a note over to hr@cnftech.com or hit us up on LinkedIn. We'll be glad to take a look at a resume and set up an interview.
Wonderful, Steve. Appreciate it. And if you can hang with us, I'm sure there's going to be some questions coming your way. Next up, I wanted to bring in Adrian Lopez into this conversation with CEO of Workforce Solutions Alamo. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yes, wonderful. So Amanda and I were just talking about the implications of the pandemic. So many people were hit really hard. They're suffering. Maybe they lost their jobs. Maybe they have issues with childcare. Can you talk a little bit about how Workforce Alamo Solutions really addresses a lot of the things that people are dealing with right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Workforce Solutions Alamo, one of the 28 workforce boards in Texas. On an annual basis, we're serving about 200,000 folks that are coming to our 16 career centers. What we provide is everything as little as resume writing and assistance with folks who are doing job search, to doing a little bit more intense things where we're providing stipends and opportunities for people to get retrained or upskilled to get into some of the targeted occupations that we support. And those are jobs that are high demand, high wage, and high growth, right? Meaning that those jobs are going to be around for a good while. So some of the supports that we provide include things like childcare. So on a daily basis, we have about 10,000 kids that are in childcare that are allowing mom or dad to go back to school, to get trained, or to be employed, which for those 5,000 or 6,000 families that we're supporting with that, they generate about $12 million in earnings on a monthly basis. So we have a lot of supports in relation to that, but that's just kind of one of the examples.
I wanted to circle back specifically to the job training, because I can imagine some of our viewers may be watching this saying, hey, I want to try this field, but I don't have any experience. I don't even know where to start. Is there an example that you can give us of a job training, maybe program or internship that our viewers might be interested in?
Yeah, some of the jobs that Steve was just mentioning, those are some of the training opportunities that we provide some entry level types of training so that we can get people into IT or cybersecurity or healthcare or manufacturing. There are some sectors that are continuing to grow and will continue to grow as we move forward. Just most recently, we had someone that actually had spent about 20 years in hospitality, and this coming December will be graduating with their teacher certification, and will be actually teaching probably this time next year, or around the 2022, that is.
Something I love about this town hall is an opportunity for, our viewers and those listening to feel like they can connect with you. I mean, you're a CEO, you've been there 22 years of experience, including executive management. And this is a big deal for them to be able to connect with you, ask you questions, especially because you have extensive knowledge of things like social services programs, like housing programs, community development, civic engagement. And so I just wanted to open up that topic of it is okay for them to approach you and ask you questions. Safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually just in Pearsall, Texas, just this morning, visiting a facility and along with the food bank folks, and was explaining that my uncle used to work there, and that when I was in college, actually, he would give me a potato sack full of potatoes, cucumbers, onions, whatever produce he could give me. And literally, I was walking on the campus of St. Mary's University with a potato sack full of vegetables. So I certainly understand what people have to go through to make ends meet, right, and to become, potentially the next CEO. So I would encourage people that don't limit yourselves in terms of your opportunities.
That's huge. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. And then Stephanie, I wanted to pull you in. Stephanie Garcia with Port San Antonio. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're very excited, to have you on the panel today. Can you talk to us a little bit about the opportunities that you guys have? I know that's a big question, but is there a place you want to start?
Oh, absolutely. And so I don't know if any of you are familiar with Port San Antonio or not, but it's just a really exciting place to be right now. And what's really exciting about it is that at the end of the day, what work has to do is to grow and maintain quality jobs. And we do that by supporting our customers, whether it's their marketing or their business development efforts. And the biggest resource that we provide right now is our website, which is portsanantonio.us/jobs. And so what we do is we maintain a database of right now, I think we have over 200 job opportunities that are available. And those could be anything from entry-level positions that don't require a four-year college degree to any job that might require a certificate program that some of the colleges around our areas offer, such as Alamo colleges or St. Philip's colleges. And we do, the sectors that we have here are within the aerospace industry, cybersecurity industry, robotics industry, and advanced manufacturing. What we do have coming up in spring 2022 that we're very excited about, that we think is going to be another vehicle where we're going to be connecting people with opportunities, educational opportunities, career opportunities, and that's going to be our Innovation Center and Esports and Tech Arena. It's a 130,000 square foot building. There's going to be 4 different components to it. It's going to be the home of the San Antonio Museum of Science and Technology stands up at the port right now. It's in a preview space. And there are Smithsonian level technological exhibits from a gentleman by the name of David Monroe. And the reason why we see this as such an important asset to our campus is because it provides those STEM opportunities, those STEM education opportunities for kids. Since they've opened about 3 years ago, they've had about 60,000 kids from around the area go through their summer camps. And those are STEM related, as I said, whether it's robotics, in the cyberspace, they've done things with NASA, rocket launches. A lot of, great hands-on activities happen at the museum. And now we're going to be able to bring that into a larger space and hopefully just continue that educational opportunities and, just getting kids ramped up and excited about technology. With our esports arena, what we're doing with that is we really know that we want to attract talent to this region. And we know that a lot of people play video games and esports, and only 1% of those individuals who play esports and are video gamers are actually going to have a career in esports. Esports in itself has got its own set of jobs. It's the same as any traditional sport. You've got marketing, you've got shoutcasters, you've got the professional gamers, you've got the event planners. But what a lot of our customers are seeing the value of esports, and I'll give you an example. Plus One Robotics is one of our success stories. We talk about them a lot. It's another homegrown startup company. 3 gentlemen from here in San Antonio. They started a company about 3 or 4 years ago. They started in a 4,000 square foot little warehouse here, and they've since grown now to, I believe they have about 25,000 square feet with almost 100 employees. And I'm bringing this up because they introduced a new job into the marketplace, and that job is called a robot crew chief. And what they're really looking for this type of position, which is an entry-level position, by the way, is somebody who has that gaming acumen, the understanding of technology, the ability to think quick and to predict what is going to happen next. I mean, some of these things are just way above my head, but I know that those are the types of skill sets that they're starting to look for, interestingly enough. So that is why Port San Antonio is a huge advocate for esports and gaming. So I'll just get to the 2 other components very quickly.
Stephanie, if I can pop in real quick, I don't mean to interrupt you. I did want to touch on the Plus One Robotics because we had an opportunity to go do a story there and to highlight what they're doing. We got to see what the robot crew chief actually does. And it's an entry-level position, as you mentioned. And the gentleman we spoke with was rising within the company. And so you guys also feature a lot of jobs where you can get in on an entry level, but you can become a star and you can really, really build from there.
Oh, no, absolutely. And the robot crew chief, I was there just yesterday, and she's actually an English lit major, but she just so happened to stumble upon Plus One Robotics, I think through a temp agency, and she's starting her career there, entry level. And I think that a lot of our customers have those types of opportunities, and we support those opportunities. A lot of our customers also, they do have internship programs, but they're not only within the colleges, they're also within the high school level. So we just want to create a space, a campus that allows for these collaborations between education, the collaborations between buyers and sellers, and the collaborations are just these creative collaborations between startup companies as well. Okay. And that's something that you'll be seeing in our Innovation Center.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We're going to have more questions, but I wanted to get to Amanda really quickly because some of you have had some questions coming in over the web. And so Amanda, what are you seeing? What are people asking?
Well, one of the biggest things, Simone, is definitely what makes someone stand out. Does it come down to their employment history altogether? Is it what's relevant? That's really what we're seeing online right now, is what makes someone stand out in order to get one of these jobs, especially if this is a career field that, you know, like we said, a lot of people during the pandemic decided to go a different route with their career than what they were doing before the pandemic hit. So if they are in something that's, you know, different and looking at something that is a completely different path than what they normally would go for, what would make them stand out among the rest of the candidates?
Okay, I'm going to direct that to Geronimo Moreno with Dynamic Advancement. He's the Director of Client Outreach. Sir, if you don't mind me bringing you into this conversation, just in terms of, you know, how a candidate, as Amanda said, just how do they differentiate themselves from a wide pool of other candidates?
It's a very good question. Can you hear me? Just want to make
yes,
sure
we got you. Yep.
Yeah. So coming from professional development, that's our wheelhouse here at Dynamic Advancement. The biggest thing I would say is just being able to articulate your value. That's really huge. I believe just with the clients we've been able to working with Adrian's team over there at WSA, that's the biggest thing I've seen with people who are able to land jobs is just being able to articulate value. I know sometimes the big cyber guys may have some specific requirements, but I believe if you could really truly articulate your value, all things can be negotiable. If you can really say, hey, I'm going to help you push your mission forward, I can get the job done. And I will defer to my panel members as well to say if you would agree or not.
Sure. Anyone feel free. If there's someone else who wants to chime in here, please do.
So I would just say that from the perspective of employers, what we hear is they hire on technical skills and they fire on social skills and soft skills, right? It's about being able to survive within and thrive within, the workplace, right? And so that means get to work early, right? That means, do something before they ask you to do it, right? That means, resolving conflicts before they actually become conflicts, right? So a lot of that is just the soft skills, right, that people learn, and sometimes it's referred back to like what you learned in kindergarten to a certain extent, how you treat other people and how you social and interact with others. But I think what Geronimo said in terms of demonstrating your value, be assertive, right, and be honest. Most people will say, I realize that I probably hire people that don't have all of the skill sets and all of the the needs to fill the position, but they demonstrated assertiveness, and they're probably a very good fit because they have the winning attitude to be able to learn. So lastly, I guess I would say, be a consistent learner. The minute you stop learning is the minute you're probably going to be left behind.
Yeah, I'd like to chip in on that. I think Adrian and Geronimo are spot on. So my industry is often thought of as a very technology forward industry, but at the end of the day, it's attitude and aptitude that really matter. Our industry changes so quickly. There's an old adage called Moore's Law back in the 1970s, and the principle of Moore's Law is that computer technology, microprocessor technology, our ability to process information doubles every 18 months. Well, that's slow by an order of magnitude. Time to need for some of my clients to solve a problem is measured in weeks or days, not in months and years. So with technology moving that quickly, it's unrealistic for employers to expect someone to walk in the door with every skill set you're ever going to need to be successful, especially our junior and entry level folks. So I think if you come in with a great attitude, I think self-confidence is really important. Great going to work skills is really important. That's been, maybe a little bit more challenging during the pandemic for some of our younger folks to pick up because you don't have an opportunity to practice them. But, having a vision for who you want to be, why you want to be in the sector. And last thing I would say is critical thinking skills. Critical thinking and learning skills are a whole lot more important than a degree or, for my coders out there, it's great that you have a lot of snippets in GitHub, but we really want to see how you solve real world problems. And for those folks that are intimidated about coming to a technology company because maybe you went through CODA or you went through a workforce training program versus a university and you don't have a great body of work, I would say we're increasingly in my industry recognizing there's a sector of the workforce that hasn't been accessed that people don't traditionally think of as a great talent for engineering and development personnel, and it's a shame because if you're somebody starting your second career, or whether you're a veteran, as an example, I'm interviewing a veteran later today whose entire career was spent as a medic and is now learning about cybersecurity and network engineering. A mom who has been a stay-at-home mom for a number of years and is re-entering the workforce, or perhaps entering the workforce for the first time, or a single dad. These are folks that don't have a ton of time to work on hobby projects to demonstrate that they can do things. They're folks who have been spending their time and energy in solving real-world problems. And believe it or not, that comment about everything you need to know you learned in kindergarten is 100% spot on.
Sure.
Most of those skills translate directly to the workplace.
Well,
and if you're a parent in particular.
Right. I mean, you just got to put food on the table at some point, to kind of your train of thought there. And I did want to recap a little bit of what you all were saying. Some of you mentioned critical thinking skills, right? You have to have those, a vision for what you want, attitude and aptitude. And when I think of all of those, when we sum that up, I think of, that gives you confidence to walk into a job and hopefully come before all of you and apply. And I wanted to bring Melissa Curiel into this conversation. She's with Goodwill San Antonio. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I was thinking of you specifically for this because you guys can help maybe writing a resume, conducting online job searches, preparing people for interviews, because I mean, if we're all businessmen, we're selling ourselves essentially, but you have to have the confidence to do that, and you can help with that.
Absolutely. Goodwill San Antonio has been serving our community since 1945. We actually are a very diverse and inclusive organization. We employ over 1,550 employees. One of the divisions that we do have here at Goodwill is our Career Services division. We do help individuals prepare their resumes. We help them in interviewing techniques, but we also help employ individuals who have significant barriers and challenges to employment as well. So here at Goodwill, I think typically people think of us as a retail store, as a donation station, but Goodwill San Antonio is so much more than that. We offer retail positions, of course, but we also are a very large government and local and federal government contractor. We provide job opportunities at the local Air Force bases. We digitize medical records for the Army and the Air Force. We do so much more than the retail stores. And yes, we can assist individuals with job searches. We also provide Good Careers Academies services where we are actually training individuals in certified nursing assistant,
Awesome.
pharmacy technician, certified CDL truck drivers. So we offer a lot of services here at Goodwill.
Well, and I'm reading too, you may have touched on this, so forgive me if I'm circling back, but you guys offer competitive wages and benefits. So medical,
Yes.
dental, vision, PTO, a retirement savings plan. I mean, those are things that our viewers would love to know about too.
Oh, absolutely. Even our part-time employees receive benefits. I think a lot of, individuals think about benefits as, just full-time. We offer life coaches in our organization. We actually help our employees with the barriers that they are facing to be successful in the workplace. So not only a competitive wage and medical benefits, we offer so much more.
Love it. All right, thank you so much. And let's go ahead and bring Amanda back in. She's got more questions.
Yes, one of the biggest things that I think comes up anytime you go into a new job is you're going to have your resume ready for you. And, Goodwill mentioned it a little bit of like helping out people with their resume and being able to craft it and put it together. But what do all of you look for in a resume? Does it come down to job experience within that industry, or just maybe if someone comes in saying, hey, I really want to try this out, let's get to work?
I wanted to direct that question to Britt Angela, if that's possible, with Baptist Health Systems. I know we did touch on this just a bit, but if we could circle back to what Amanda was asking, just in terms of, are there some real basics people are going to need to have on their resume? I know it might apply, depend on the job they're applying for, but can you kind of help delve into that topic?
Sure, absolutely. So when it comes to our highly skilled nursing positions, we do look for, there are definitely minimum requirements that we can't deviate from. But when we're looking at an entry-level role, we would want someone to have minimum a high school diploma or a GED. We would look for a clean resume, meaning that it has the proper dates, there's proper spelling. And so I think like what Melissa was saying, and also Adrian, when you're going to a service to help you craft a resume, because I think it's hard to talk about yourself, right? You may have skills that you don't even think they're employable skills. But I will tell you, if you're a patient care associate, we're looking for people who care, who have good customer service skills. So maybe you worked as a cashier somewhere, or maybe you worked answering phones as a PBX operator, and those skills are transferable to an entry-level role. Of course, we would require a BLS certificate, but you can easily get that throughout the community. But we would look for somebody who cares, who has a passion for people. So I think you want to tell a story on your resume, and really you're telling the story about who you are and what you bring to the table, right? And we would look for obviously spelling errors or something we wouldn't want to see. But if you could just tell us, if you couldn't tell me by speaking to me, what would you want me to know about you in a few words or less? And that's what we look for in a resume.
I wanted to touch on something too. In this pandemic, which has been so ugly in so many ways, our healthcare workers have been our heroes. So many times, our bright spots. And I'm just wondering, for maybe people at home who are watching, saying, "Hey, I want to be that hero. I want to get into an internship. Do you all offer anything along those lines?
So an internship would really be like a nurse extern for us, and we would require somebody who was already attending nursing school. We do have those opportunities within our facilities. But if you wanted an entry-level position in healthcare, you didn't know what you wanted to do in a hospital or in a healthcare setting, a patient care associate would be a great place to start, because you would be working essentially with patients and supporting patients' families, bringing trays of food, making sure you're doing some cleaning of the patient, speaking to the patient. You know, I think a lot of times, and especially during COVID, where there was restriction in having, you had your families coming in, we were really the lifeline to people so they had some socialization. We were there to assist, to bring you reading materials. So I would really encourage anyone who's thinking of a career in healthcare, and maybe not a nurse. I mean, there's so many opportunities in healthcare. You can be a respiratory therapist. You can be an MRI tech. There's so many things to do. But starting your career as a patient care associate is a great way of doing it. We know that many of our leaders started off as a patient care associate and have grown their career from that to a nurse manager, to a nurse director, even a chief nursing officer. So we have plenty of growth opportunities within the Baptist Health System.
All right, let's go ahead and check in with our social media desk to find out what kinds of questions are being asked. Hey, Amanda.
Hi, so Britt, Angela, you mentioned this a little bit, but I want to open this up to everybody. The importance of professional certificates, are they sought out? Are they a big advantage? Is this something, if people are hearing about it going, what is this? How can I get one? How important are they when it comes down to applying for a job at each of your places?
Right. So I would say that it really depends on the position you're requiring. So there are many certifications for nurses, whether you are an emergency nurse or you're an ICU nurse. What that really demonstrates to the employer is that you're really serious about your career path, and you really are taking the time to learn more. I think it was Adrian who said that you never stop growing, and in healthcare, it's one of those industries that you are constantly learning. Nurses are always taking courses. Respiratory therapists are always taking courses, CEUs. And so what it demonstrates to us as the recruitment side, that you are really dedicated to your craft and you're always seeking opportunities to learn more. So I think it's very important.
Wonderful. Stephanie Garcia, I wanted to bring you back into the fold here because, Port San Antonio is such a dynamic part of our region's economy. It's a huge part of our region's economy. And in terms of narrowing down where someone might want to apply, I know you mentioned the website. Do you guys have job fairs, or is there any way that, let's say I don't really know what I want to do, but I kind of like aerospace, or I kind of like the Air Force operations. Where do I start?
Well, I think a lot of things that we try to do is we host different events. In November, we have an event called the Kelly Field Youth Aerospace Expo. And so what we do there is we show kids what aerospace is like. We set up C-5s outside of our runway, F-15 fighter jets, and then inside we have a host of different types of aerospace exhibits for kids, but we're also going to start bringing in that STEM component. So kids can start getting excited, as I mentioned earlier, about innovation and technology and aerospace and the different kinds of careers that are in aerospace. That, as you know, aerospace is one of San Antonio's key industries, along with cyber. So we try to show kids all aspects of different aerospace jobs, whether it's, the MRO of the aircraft, the maintenance, repair and overhaul, depainting aircraft, painting aircrafts. It's not only becoming a pilot, it's maintaining engines. There's a lot of different things that go into that. And again, some of those careers, they are high quality jobs, and some of them do only require certificates and not that 4-year degree. So we do a lot of events. I think a lot of times kids going through the SAMSAT programs and the summer camps, that's just a career, that's a pathway to learning what the next steps would be to go into some type of career that.
Wonderful. Great answer. Thank you. Let's bring Amanda back in with another question.
So we've hit on what qualifications are needed for each of the different sectors, but some people are wondering, if they've been out of the job field for a while, if they haven't really been in, employment, or maybe they've taken some time off with their families, what is the best way to get up to date for skills in order to apply and to be able to successfully get a job with any of you?
Anyone who wants to jump forward on this one?
So I think I would just encourage people to, if they have been out of the job market for a while or haven't been working, is that, as I mentioned, we have 16 career centers located in a 13 county region. We have career counselors that are very well versed in all of the types of sort of sectors that exist out there. One of the data points that we look at of the 125,000 job seekers that are registered in our system, the number one occupation is customer service rep. And which is really kind of weird. So there's about 7,000 people who have selected that, but there's only about 3,000 jobs, right? There are thousands of jobs in IT and thousands of jobs in healthcare and construction and aerospace. And so I think, maybe the first step for people to come to one of our centers or call our hotline at 210-224-4357 so they can get connected to some of the career counselors, right? And they can start participating in some of those employer events. We probably hosted close to 100 employer events since January through now. And even if it's just that they want to figure out, what's out there, right? There's no harm in them, getting on. A lot of times these are virtual career fairs and hiring events.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with them getting on and just taking that first step of going to one of our career centers.
Well, and I love that because then you really get a feel for the energy of the people you might be working for or with. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And employers are very gracious. They need labor at the moment, and
Sure.
and they understand that they have to do more to try to get their employment needs met. So we have a really great community of employers.
I wanted to touch on dynamic advancement. Geronimo, if I could address this question to you. You're a retired Air Force veteran, and so I wanted to talk specifically maybe to members of the military who are trying to transition back into civilian life and are starting to look at their options. You guys are very veteran friendly, safe to say?
Yes.
Wonderful. And what about your company would be appealing to them in terms of maybe coming to work?
I think the fact that I would say 95% of us are veterans and military spouse, it's the culture. We took from the military with us to this work environment, something that I think
We may
get placed. Can you still hear me?
Yep, we got you back. Carry on. Carry on.
I mean, there's been times you may be placed in the middle of the Middle East, and they just say, "Hey, we need this thing to work." Okay, give me the tools. Yes, you may not have the tools, but you still have to make it work. And that's just how our culture is. For example, last year when we actually started working with Adrian's team at the height of the pandemic, most of us came from cyber, the stuff that Steve does, cyber and IT. And we created these programs to give people entry-level skills. And it turned out a lot of people now were interested in having those entry-level IT skills. And we found ourselves again, similar to being in the desert, it's a pandemic. We got, 166,000 people who needed new skills. And we were used to working with the type of folks that are working with Steve, giving them higher level certifications. This is something we've never done before. And yes, we had to figure it out, and we figured it out. And we've been tracking people who had to make that career shift with new skills to get some of those patient care jobs, customer service representative jobs, maybe entry-level HR jobs. Across the board, we've been seeing people take jobs they probably never even thought about. So to go back to your original question, is just that it's a culture for veterans coming out of the military that they're used to. I think we're a good in-between to where still enough, you're close enough to the military environment, but we're private sector, so it can reacclimate you back to how the civilian world is.
I love that. And they're obviously in good hands with you guys. Like you said, other veterans around them. Okay, wonderful. Amanda, let's go ahead and head over back to you on the social media desk. Any questions coming in?
So I first want to say, as the daughter of 2 military veterans, I can empathize with the transition from the active duty life to the civilian life, and it is one that is very important. So thank you guys for being there, all of you for being there for our military veterans, because it is definitely a transition. But something that comes up a lot of times, whether it is transitioning from the military or just in general transitioning from one job to another, is when is the best time to apply for these jobs? I know Workforce Solutions, you guys have a lot of different programs for people to be able to look for jobs and to be able to refine those skills. But is there a specific time that more people come in versus, different times of the year?
No, the answer is, we would encourage people to get engaged sooner than later. One of the things that's still kind of an issue that nobody knows, right, is what does the job market look like after the pandemic? If you read certain articles and talk to certain experts, some say that 20 to 30% of the jobs that existed pre-pandemic are no longer going to exist, right? And so because of things like automation and efficiencies and those types of things. So we would encourage people to get engaged sooner than later, right? If it doesn't mean they have to make a decision tomorrow about where the career path is or what their next career move is, but they do need to start to understand and have a better grip as to what jobs exist and what is their career pathway and how to get to that particular point, right? I think that the first step to success is just making a decision to become engaged.
Wonderful. Steve Barish, I wanted to bring you in for this question. Will you train me, or should I already have a certain skill set? We've touched on this to some degree,
Yes.
but
so the answer to that is yes.
Okay, good. Well, and that's what I wanted to dive in just a little bit more, because as we touched on, I have a feeling our viewers heard some of your maybe job opportunities, and like we said, they're really exciting. They sound cool, and they want to know, hey, can I just show up? And what if I'm really confident? Can I sell myself? Will you train me?
Well, I think, I think it is some from column A and some from column B. Mm-hmm. So there exists, much like I think in the healthcare world, there are certain jobs that are more highly regulated from our federal regulation and clients' perspective. And there are some jobs that require a fairly esoteric skill set. So if you are trying to get into certain fields, a good example might be cybersecurity monitoring, where you're watching for an intrusion event. There is a certain set of skills that you're going to have on day one. On the other hand, if you have some basic understanding of how code works or basic understanding of how a network works, there's a lot of jobs that you can come in at an entry level and obtain on-the-job training. Most employers in my sector, again, when I say that, I mean the technology sector, both IT and cyber, as well as folks that tend to work for federal and state clients. We tend to offer training benefits for all of our employees. And I highly encourage, I encourage all of our folks to get as much training as they can. Many employers, once you're in the door, will have a benefits package, which will include job training that isn't necessarily, go to a university or go to a conference or a training school. It's an online training delivery system. And I tell everybody, if you're not taking advantage of that, well, it's kind of like giving up free money. By the way, same story with your 401k. Start investing early. You should invest in yourself also. A lot of, one of the earlier questions was, what separates me from the pack?
Right.
So, and I think it also touches on the person who's re-entering the workforce after a hiatus. You get the first contact with an employer, most likely because you have the right keywords on the resume, because most job, especially at larger firms, most job placement is done first by an automated tool that looks for those keywords. So for your viewers, make sure you understand what those keywords are, and you tailor your resume to the specific keywords necessary for the job you're applying for, because we're hunters, we're job hunting. We're not job farming, okay? You have to go out and pursue it. The second thing is, like I said, invest in yourself. There's so much free training online now, free education online now. spend a little bit of time understanding and learning about the kind of job you think you want to do. If you want to be in cyber, read a couple of the key books that are out there on the foundations of cybersecurity principles. If you're interested in IT, same story. The more that I see people invest in themselves and have that good attitude, and they understand, the keywords that we're looking for, they're making it easier for us to find them. The more likely they are to get an interview. And then if that interview goes well, with the attitude and everything we talked about earlier, the more likely they are to get an offer very, very quickly. If you don't invest in yourself, I have had folks that I've worked with in the past who are more than happy to get training if the employer will send them to training that they'll pay for. And there's a role for that. We do an awful lot of that. In fact, I have, I think, 10 or so people going to Las Vegas for a conference called DEF CON tomorrow, which is sort of the largest cybersecurity conference in North America, I believe. So, we will send people to training, but we aren't going to send people to training that aren't also seeking to improve their skills. So that attitude of continual learning is essential for you to be successful, not just isn't it getting in the door, but throughout your career.
It's that little bit of initiative. What I'm hearing you say is it goes a really long way.
Yeah, it really does. That person, I can't remember if it was Adrian that said it or if it was Bernangelo that said it, but the person that is proactive and says what needs to be done as opposed to what are you telling me to do. Sure. They're just a night and day difference between those two humans.
All right, great answer. Let's go ahead and bring Amanda back in with some questions.
Yeah, I want to direct this one to Stephanie because I feel like everyone was a little bit excited when we heard about, the robots and the different programs you guys have out there. But one thing that someone watching this might have, they might be wondering about is how do they network effectively to be able to get into that kind of career if they've never really had an opportunity to know anyone in it, especially amid the pandemic when there are fewer face-to-face interactions?
Well, I think that's a very great question, and I'll just use myself as an example. I do a lot of work within the robotics community here in San Antonio, and obviously I'm not a roboticist. I'm not an engineer. I don't have any kinds of those skill sets. But what I did have was just that natural curiosity, and going out into an industry where I knew no one, I don't know anything about that, and I just jumped in and made friends. And understand that diversity is very important to, I think, any job that you go into. Again, having that natural curiosity, networking, making friends. And I know sometimes it's very difficult for some folks to go out into a new environment, again, where they know nobody. That's how I started with Port San Antonio in this position. It was very nerve-wracking for me to go out and meet different people in different industries. But back to the robotics community, that just going out there, meeting those people, getting involved with that community was one way that I was able to just kind of get outside myself and network. And through a lot of those relationships, those opened up doors to other relationships and other different industries. So you just have to believe in yourself and keep going and just meeting folks, I think, from all aspects.
I love that. I wanted to bring in Adrian, too, for this next question. Again, CEO of Workforce Solutions Alamo. I'm reading right now, and I know we touched on this, but it's the Train for Jobs SA program that you all have. And essentially, you all received funding from the city of San Antonio to give us opportunities like paid work experiences, things along those nature, training for in-demand careers, job placement services. And if you've been negatively impacted by COVID, you could be eligible. People listening right now could be eligible. And I wanted to make sure we circled back on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really an unprecedented opportunity for folks to take advantage of not only getting free training, but getting the opportunity to actually get paid while they're in training. That's unheard of, right? And that's actually pretty unique to this community, because when you look at other cities across Texas and the US, they don't have that opportunity. And so, so both the city of San Antonio and Bexar County actually invested significant dollars. And today we probably have, close to maybe 1,500 folks that are in training. We have some that already have graduated from the different training opportunities. and are now being, placed in jobs. On average, they're probably making about $16 an hour, right? That's starting wage. Eventually, they'll probably make, more as time progresses. But there's some really great opportunities to get training. And I think the issue is that you really don't need to necessarily have any experience in those types of fields, right? If you have an interest, we can put you in those types of trainings. If you want to sort of try things out, you can do the either work experience or on the job training, so that it gives an opportunity for you, that employer and yourself, to make a determination of whether there's a good fit, right? Sometimes people don't want to go sit in a classroom, they'll rather go to the workplace. And so we do still have those opportunities, and there are many employers that we work with that offer those opportunities.
Wonderful. All right, Melissa, I wanted to circle back with you, Goodwill San Antonio. I'm reading about your digital literacy program, and this makes me think of someone who maybe is trying to transition into a different career. Maybe one that, they're trying to keep up with this fast-paced world, and they need some computer skills. And you guys do offer training in that regard, is that correct?
We do. Goodwill San Antonio does offer that training, and I could tell you as an employer, many of us are moving to electronic systems in which employees need to utilize and leverage technology to even request for time off, to request for their work schedules, to view their work schedules. So it is very important not only to function as an employee, but also employers nowadays, the application process is all online.
Wow.
So in order to even be considered for a position, you do need to submit an online application. So you do need to have those skills even to apply for positions. So Goodwill does offer that service, and we welcome anyone to look into it. We also have all of our positions online at workforgoodsa.org. Again, a skill set that you need to be able to search for a job. So you could view all of our positions there as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Melissa. And I'm going to turn to Britt Angela. We want to be able to get you in on this question right here. How do you recruit medical positions if someone is still anxious or has that anxiety build up over the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I mean, anyone who's in healthcare, they're aware of what the significant challenges are. But we have everyone who is applying, they are there to care for patients, and they have a passion for patients. So there isn't any, that has not been really a challenge for us. I mean, as everyone has mentioned, all of our positions are digital, they're mobile. Our job site, jobs.tenethealth.com, is up and ready to receive applications. But we also recruit on social media. So you can find our jobs on LinkedIn, on Indeed, and on Facebook. I think anyone will tell you that nurses are very social media friendly. And one of the best returns on our investment is to have our jobs posted on Facebook, and to encourage anyone to ask questions on Facebook, and one of the recruiters will jump on in real time and answer any questions they may have.
And this is pure curiosity on my part, Britt, so bear with me here in case it's too
Sure.
far out of left field. But okay, so to Amanda's larger point, let's say maybe I'm COVID shy, or I don't necessarily want to work with patients, but maybe I want to work in communications, or I want to work in that side of the hospital or the health system. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. We have non-clinical positions as well, right? It takes a lot to make a hospital function. So we have EVS positions, which would be our cleaning positions. We do have PBX operators. We have unit secretary positions. We have a lot of non-clinical, and all of those positions are online. And I will tell you, working in healthcare does not mean you're always doing bedside. You're not doing patient care. We can only do what we do, the nurses and the respiratory therapists, because we have people behind the scenes that are helping on the other side, whether it's billing, whether it's preparing the meals, whether it's answering the phones. There's a whole office of non-clinical people, such as myself, who are helping to support those who are making the difference at the bedside.
Fantastic. I wanted to go round robin here, if you all don't mind. In terms of why people should want to come work for you, if you had to sell yourselves in a nutshell, maybe briefly, let's go ahead and I'd love to hear some of those answers. Is there someone who wants to start?
I'll start.
Please.
So I would say that you want to come work for us because we care for the community. Our tagline is community built on care. And that's really true, right? So it's from the person who greets you at the front door, who cares for you. You may be anxious coming into the hospital because you have a loved one who's there. Maybe you're there to have a procedure. So from that, it starts from there. Somebody who's a CNA who's there, who's helping turn a patient, to the chef who's preparing the food, the delicious foods, the nutritious meals that will help get you back on your feet if you're getting better. To the respiratory therapist, to the phlebotomist, to the nurse, to the doctor. We really care for the whole patient, but in many different ways. And it's not just the patient, it's the patient's family. I think anyone who's in the San Antonio community knows about Baptist Health, knows about our storied career there in San Antonio. And we have many opportunities for people who are doing both patient care as well as administrative. We also have a school, and our school both trains nurses as well as allied health. So we have many opportunities for people who are in education, as well as those who want to work specifically in the hospital setting.
All right, who's up next?
I'll go next.
Please.
So as far as dynamic advancement, so we're a group of cyber and IT guys who came out of the military, and we're now boots on the ground actually helping develop the workforces. Our wheelhouse is cyber, IT, project management, and HR. So if you want to come out here and join us and help people get jobs, help people get promotions, come join the team.
Perfect. All right, next up, anyone?
I'll go ahead and go next.
Sure.
And I won't speak for Port San Antonio, but just coming over and just taking a look at our website. And again, it's portsanantonio.us/jobs. You can take a look at all the different customers that we have and the opportunities that are available within aerospace, robotics, cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing. And the reason why, and I'll go back to Steve's point earlier, when you said that CNF is a homegrown company and it's all about family. And I think that that speaks to a lot of the different companies that we have here on the campus. But not only that, we are creating and building, and what I'm excited about to be a part of a team that's building a campus in the spirit of collaboration. So whether you are in cyber or whether you are in aerospace, you have a place where you can come together and maybe develop a new technology and have those creative collaborations. And again, just a lot of our customers, they do help you through those certificate programs and really invest in your future. And I think that that's just the spirit that we have here at Port San Antonio. So I would definitely encourage everyone to look into that.
Wonderful. All right, who's up to bat next?
I'll go next.
Please, yeah.
So here at Goodwill San Antonio, our mission is to help change lives through the power of work. I feel very blessed and honored to work for Goodwill. We not only care about our community, but we truly care about our employees. We are here to help them be successful. We offer training opportunities. We offer, as mentioned earlier, job success coaches to really wrap our arms around our employees and really help them be successful in the workplace. Goodwill truly believes in promoting from within. So we talked about when you go into that interview, sell yourself. Absolutely sell that you're willing and eager to learn and to grow. Sell your potential. That's what Goodwill is looking for. We're looking for individuals that really want to grow and learn within our organization. And we will take good care of you.
Wonderful. All right, Steve, Adrian, either one of you?
I'll go since because I want to echo first off Stephanie and say she's absolutely right. They're a phenomenal partner. A big part of our success has been our partnership with the board. So Stephanie, we appreciate that very much. But I absolutely love what Melissa had to say. Why I think people should want to come work for companies like all of those represented here and CNF Technologies in particular is because people matter. At the end of the day, there will be a day where the ride ends for every single one of us on this call or on this panel. And the only thing that will really survive us when we are gone are the people and the lives that we touch along the way. And that's a very cognizant part of how we select, nurture, and retain our staff at CNF. You know, we use this phrase, we don't hire you for a job, we hire you for a career, and then we help you achieve it. And I think that's an important part of the social contract between employer and employee. It's why we have something like 95% retention in a very high turnover field for the life of the company. We are all about people, and taking those people and using their expertise, science and technology to solve some really tremendously complicated programs that face the country from a national security perspective and make a real world difference in the future of each and every one of us who are privileged enough to live here. I really believe that we do that every day. And so if you get jazzed up by solving problems, if you get excited by being a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and you want to be in an organization that wants you to succeed, and from the ownership on down is motivated daily to find a way to make that a reality, you want to come work at CNF Technologies.
Wonderful. All right. Would you like to wrap for us? Anyone else? Steve? We already get you?
I just want to
Yes,
say one thing. I
please.
have to echo Steve and appreciation and kudos to Port San Antonio, because they're also one of our strategic partners, and you could say they're our landlord. So thank you, Port San Antonio.
Wonderful. All of you, thank you again so much. Any last comments that anyone wants to offer before we wrap up for the day?
I'd just like to sort of offer up that to have people pursue their passion, whatever that is, right? The wonderful thing is that we're in a community that is extremely diverse. The economy is growing. We've got thousands of jobs that are available. People just need to kind of figure out where they fit, right? Whether it's in public service, whether it's in helping out in healthcare or construction or manufacturing. Now's the time to get into the game and to start exploring that. And so I would just encourage people to get engaged and explore your passion and pursue your passion.
Very well said. And, all of you being here today speaks volumes about how much you care about this community and the people in it. So Amanda and I both say thank you so much.
Yes, thank you guys for joining
Thank
us.
you.
We appreciate it. Again, thanks to all of our panelists for joining us on Your Voice, Your Future Career Connections Town Hall. We'll have all this information as well as links to resources and everything we talked about in today's town hall posted for you on our website, news4sa.com.